you just do a little self-intro? It's the worst thing you have to do, but you must be warmed up by now.
I am Bastien Keb.
Yo, T-Bone, did you produce this?
Sounds good, right?
Let me play you something.
Air travel disrupts the hum for 72 to 100 hours. You go on an air flight, and that stops the hum in its tracks, but only for about maybe between 3 to 4 days. What is striking about that?
I had that hum for a bit. I lost my mind. I lost my fucking mind with that hum. I was living on my own, going to bed at 3, 4 in the morning, and then just one day I was like, oh my God, what is this fucking hum? And then I was like, I actually basically did lose my mind. That hum is like, I don't want to think about that hum. When I was younger, I always wanted to walk. Like there was a porn shop at the bottom of town, like a pornography shop. That was my dream job, basically, working in this pornography shop. There's something about that, you know what I mean? That's like so film. But also there used to be a spy shop knocking about, and it was just like, if I could get a job in either one of those, I'd be like, this is chilled, man. It's just fucking, it's quiet. You know, you get some weird guys coming in, you know what I mean?
Why do I think you're perfect for this?
Wow, what a question. I did do a record with my mate Claudia, Grand Dame. That was the only record that I've ever made which was straight songs. It sounds corny, but there's like music and everything. Like you go out in the morning, like bird song, sound at night with, you know, car alarms and stuff. I do genuinely think that there is like music and everything. You just hear incredible stuff through the day, just like weird sound. So I think maybe that's the reason. Hopefully that comes across on the record.
May 10th. Thank God for the rain, which has helped wash away the garbage and the trash off the sidewalks. I'm working long hours now. 6 in the afternoon to 6 in the morning, sometimes even 8 in the morning.
My favourite film is Taxi Driver, which I've said a billion times to people. I can't remember the exact quote, but Scorsese was basically talking about a taxi driver basically being like a dream. That film, with all the sound in it, the music as well, that for me feels like being somewhere, you know what I mean? It puts you somewhere. The foundation is probably like soul sort of stuff, but then it's like, how am I going to bridge between like a soul or a funk track into like a folk track? It literally feels like you're sort of traveling, because you don't want to put them back to back, because it would be like, oh, this artist hasn't got a sound or whatever. So I feel like that's where the ambient stuff comes in. So you're almost feeling like you're like seeping between different things, or you're like walking through like a city, and you're walking past a club or whatever which has got hip hop playing, and then like you go into like a Turkish restaurant and they're playing like some sort of folk stuff, you know what I mean? So I almost feel like it's music to walk around to, like a city to, and you just pick out all the little things, you know?
Talk to me about eavesdropping.
I got a friend who's an artist, and he's that guy that if you walk around with him, he will stop outside like a derelict house in the front door, and he'll look at a little like bit of paint that's been scratched off, and he'll take a photograph of it. He's that guy that sort of is seeing those things which, unless you're like a visual artist, you're probably like, if he points out to me, I can sort of respect it, but I can't see it the way that he can sort of see it, like visual art sort of thing. And I think that to a certain extent I sort of feel that with music. I mean, Tom Waits said a couple of things. Like one thing he said was like an orchestra tuning up. It's not a composed piece of music. It's basically like a mess. But if you sort of tune your ears into it, and if you're open to it, that's the sort of thing where you can sort of find some sort of musicality. And I sort of see that as eavesdropping. There's no reason for anyone to hear it, and a lot of people would sort of ignore it, but it's the way you sort of tune into it. And then also hearing music through walls and stuff. You know, like rehearsal spaces. You hear the band next to you, and it's something you're not meant to hear, but it's something which, if you sort of tune into, you can probably find there's some sort of merit to it in some sort of weird way. You know what I mean? That's what I would sort of think about with eavesdropping, just always being aware and just always listening to sounds that you shouldn't necessarily be listening to, or people don't want you to sort of hear, I suppose.
Eloise, your name echoes in the streets. I see it written on every wall, hear it in every symphony. You've stolen all the beauty of the world, all the mystery. In every cadence I hear your name. Every single brushstroke of my world is painted by you.
Inner monologue has been so important to me because it's really like, as corny as it sounds, music as therapy. It felt like that was the most cathartic. Like, music's great for distraction. When you're making it, you can get lost and you can find comfort in it. But that was the first time it was really about processing, going through problems, you know what I mean? So that really felt like a really sort of emotional thing. I think the thing that I was sort of most proud about it was the idea that I was being completely honest.
The good Lord will take a tooth, that the devil will break a heart and starve a soul. My soul now hangs around, lost in a world without you.
The first time I used one was actually a little bit maybe too high concept, because I spoke to some people about it and they were like, oh, I didn't understand that's what that was. But it was on the second record. I got Claudia to have 2 tracks, one called Glue and one called Glue Part 2. And that was basically a guy who was imagining his like ex-girlfriend talk to him in his mind and basically say, good as new, it'll be good as new, sort of thing. So that was the sort of first time, and I liked the idea of someone imagining someone else's voice in their head, sort of thing. And then I sort of branched out a little bit, and then on the third record, Eugene Peep's one, that's when I actually wrote an entire sort of script, which was very heavily influenced by the sort of Taxi Driver, in terms of like, it was a guy who was viewing the world and sort of his sort of opinions on the world, and also dealing with his own sort of loneliness. And that was like mad cathartic doing that. And my publisher at the time basically said to me, we were trying to sell the record because I didn't have a deal at the point, and he was basically like, you need to tell me what this, you know, because it's like a film, imaginary film soundtrack sort of thing. And he was like, you need to tell me what is this? At that point I realized it was that everything on it was honest. It was just all of my genuine sort of thoughts, you know what I mean? The fact that it was like really cathartic and the fact that it was really honest, I really felt like it was the next step up for me, because I feel like when you're making music, you don't want to get stuck in the same circles. Musically, if you feel like you've done everything, then it's on to like, what can you sort of develop lyrically, or what can you develop in this way? And for me, that felt like that was a big step up for me, because I felt like I was done a lot of music that I was really pleased with, and I was going to continue to develop it, but I felt like I needed to sort of really push it on. The record that was just released, that was real mad cathartic and really honest again. So it was like about a breakup with a girl. And funnily enough, like the French part, I think it was like some of my proudest writing, but it's in French, basically, because I like this concept of it being this English-speaking guy talking about this girl, and then the girl responding, but she's French. So yeah. So no one, apart from French speakers, no one actually really knows what she's saying, but it's some of my proudest work.
Oh mon amour, je me souviens me perdre dans les champs de tournesol avec toi. Nous y sommes restés jusqu'au soir et ne retrouvions plus notre chemin. Tu m'as dit que nous pourrions y vivre pour toujours. Tu me construirais une maison, j'en aurais fait un foyer. Les tournesols s'élevaient au-dessus de nous.
For me, I found it not only to be like stylized, like something that I like, but it also felt like something that was actually, very cathartic for me. and it's a good way to open up about things.
Distant sounds.
That one's like the ultimate comfort for me. I honestly don't know. I think sometimes I get excited about the idea of things occurring. I used to watch the Olympics really late at night. I was never really that into the Olympics, but I was really hyped when the Olympics and they'd have certain disciplines happening at like 4 a.m. and stuff like that. Or I used to watch American football live at like 2 a.m. It's the excitement of that. You know, you're in a small town in England, and then there's a world out there, and that thing is happening actually at that moment.
Concentrating on the ball, give him a great deal of credit. He knew he was going to get hit, and he never takes his eyes off the football.
Distant sounds makes me think of that. So when I hear like, you know, late at night, if they're doing the road markings or something like that, it's a distant sound, but it sort of shows you that there's life somewhere. It's like, it's the excitement of that. I spent a long time listening to rain on a cabin roof, like on YouTube. You know, they got those 8-hour videos of just like thunder and lightning, and then I found all the city ones, so I started listening to all the city ones, so like 10 hours of Tokyo sound at night and stuff like this. For me, there's mad comfort in that, and it's the combination of being warm and secure and safe, but then there's also the idea of the excitement of other people sort of still, you almost don't feel alone. I think that's what the American football thing late at night, it made me feel like I'm watching this and there's millions of other people in the world who are also sort of watching it. So to a certain extent, you feel like, yeah, you're not on your own or something, maybe. There's definitely a melancholy. One of my favorite things used to be when I used to have to come back I was like living in London, and for some reason, I don't know why this happens so often, but for some reason when I'd come back to the Midlands, I used to always get like a late train. It would always be dead quiet, and then the train station's at the bottom of the town that I live in, and I used to have to walk through all the clubs. And I used to absolutely love walking past all these clubs, you know, when you hear the filtered music, because all you can hear is like a bass or whatever. And there was definitely a melancholy there, but it was a melancholy that I enjoyed. So it was the idea of like, I've left London, I left my friends, I'm walking past these places where people are enjoying it, and I'm going to go and stay in a flat on my own. But a lot of people would be like, why is that giving you sort of comfort? And the strange thing is that I was aware that there was a lot of melancholy, but there was something in that. There was a comfort in the melancholy, I think. I don't know why that works like that. Sometimes there's just something about the placement of sounds. When I was living in Hackney, we lived at the top floor of it's like, I don't even know how many flights, but we had in the middle, we had a car park, and it was on an estate, and there used to be like rude boys that would come out and they would play their tunes in their cars, and the way that would reverberate in the estate was just like, it was something about it. It was just like incredible. The big thing that happened a while ago was when people started playing tunes in like precincts and malls that were completely empty. It gives a new lease of life to those music, and a all different emotion to it as well, which is a really intriguing thing, because it's a sort of place where there should be loads of people, but when there's no people, like, it really puts a different twist on it. There's something really interesting about that for me. I never actually got around to doing it, but there was a particular track that I had which I actually wanted it to sound like it was being played out of a car. And a bunch of people were like, oh yeah, just blah, blah, blah. And I was like, no, I want, like, one of my mates was basically going to drive past the house with the tune playing. It could end up being that sort of thing where it's like, is it like fire? Like someone said, apparently, if you record fire, it doesn't sound as good as if you make fire up, wasn't it? So it could be like, if I recorded that car driving past the house, people would be like, that doesn't even sound right, you know what I mean?
Thanks to Bastien Keb for speaking to me. I genuinely think the guy is brilliant. I've been playing his music on the radio for quite a long time now. His new album, The Only Angel I Ever Knew Wore Black, is out now, and I think you'll really like it, so go and give it a listen, please. And please like and subscribe to this podcast. Write a review, that's really, really helpful, and it's a nice way to say thank you if this time has been time well spent. I certainly enjoyed making it. It was recorded, produced and sound designed by me, Tom Wally, and it was a production of T-Bone Productions. And we now have some rad Sounds Good Right merch. If you like what we are doing on this channel and you want another way to support us, then the merch is pretty rad. Go to tbone.productions, find it all there. Thanks for listening.
Yo, T-Bone, did you produce this?
Sounds good, right?